let me welcome you to the conversation.
Thank you.
It's good to have you join me in the program again.
Well, thank God that you invited me. I've decided not to talk, but let it not look like one is engaging in intellectual arrogance. One is tired of...
I must say thank you for the opportunity, and you look good anyways.
Thank you.
You see, the presidential election has come and gone, and Nigerians went into that election with high expectation. High expectation in the sense that the electoral umpire promised that the process was going to be free, fair, credible, and corrupt-free. And of course, with the coming of the Electoral Act, which empowers the electoral umpire to deploy technology, Nigerians were more confident that the process would work. Now, with what played out during the presidential and National Assembly election, it seems that the hope of many Nigerians were dashed away. What do you think?
Not just that their hope were dashed, their moral had been dealt a very fatal blow. The expectations of Nigerians were that the institutions called INEC, given the assurances he had given to Nigerians prior to the 25th February presidential election, that institution had become born again, had become independent in the real sense of the word, and that it was going to mark actions with its words when it kept assuring Nigerians by no less personality than its national chairman and its national commissioner on publicity about the deployment of technology called Beaver at the polling units. The assurances was that when elections are done at the polling units and results are declared, the presiding officer of the polling stations will then scan the raw results as found, as declared in the polling unit, and then scan it into the Beaver machine to be transmitted to the INEC election result viewing center portal, whatever they call it, IRIVF. So those were the assurances upon which millions of Nigerians relied on to go to the polling units unprepared for violence, because nobody expected that it was going to be tug of war, or it was going to be an environment that was going to be militarized by thuggery and thugs and connivance of few security operatives. It was with that joy of assurances from INEC that people got to the polling units.
Including the security agencies.
Including the security agencies, who went to the place with full assurance that all is well. So nobody prepared for an abnormality. Nobody prepared for eventualities. Nobody prepared for the emergencies of the other side of political gangsterism. So we went there, and then lo and behold, Nigerians were disappointed. Yes, they came out in millions, cast their votes. Votes were counted in certain places where political actors allow voting to take place, where political actors knew that they were going to lose, and woefully, and that the status quo was going to be demolished and dismantled in a democratic, to borrow the word of Kiyomadiwe of blessed memory, in a court Concordia. They came to do what they know how to do best in their brutish and forceful manner, began to cause chaos. Gunshots were heard. machete were used. In some places, deaths were recorded. In other places, results as freely given at the various polling units were eventually changed in favor of preferred candidates, not in favor of those that Nigerians wanted to send to the various institutions of governance.
Now, most of the political parties, about 18 political parties that participated in this presidential election, some of them have said they are going to court. In fact, Labour Party has actually gone to court as I'm talking to you now. You understand how post-electoral litigations happen in Nigeria. You've monitored how it happens, you've monitored the process. But this time is different. You understand the mood of the country as it is today. Most Nigerians who feel that, the process did not arrive the way it ought to. Some of them have gone to the streets, some are protesting already. So this time is different. They feel or they think the process and the system have failed them. And they are hoping that the judiciary will restore back that hope. Do you think it will play out once this process begins?
That's the hope of everyone. The judiciary in a normal climate, in a society where sanity holds sway, where respect for law and order holds sway, where independence of the judiciary is sacrosanct, that is where people should go. And that's where people are encouraged to go. But as to whether or not the Nigerian judiciary will be able, this time around, to hold its head high and restore hope to Nigerian people, it's a kettle of fish altogether. There are mixed reactions from various quarters as to whether or not the Nigerian judiciary will have the boldness, the courage, the determination, the jurisprudential understanding of the current electoral regime, different from the previous electoral acts. For instance, this new electoral act seems to have introduced some innovations rooted in technology. So the understanding of the judiciary in the use of technology and appreciation of evidence generated through technological device will play a very significant role in the determination of this election petition. Prior now, you will recall that there have been principles of law that have been churned out by our courts. Principles such as you must call polling unit agents, you must call those who witness violence, you must demonstrate documents and tender documents through the maker, you must, these principles of substantial compliance and what have you. But there is an innovation in the new Electoral Act, Section 137, for instance, that says that where there are apparent non-compliance with documents tendered or with the processes followed, and it is apparent, then there is no need for the multiplicities of witnesses across polling units to come and talk in oral evidence in court. That's one innovation that will be tested here in these election petitions that are going to be filed, not only in presidential elections, but in other elections across the states of the Federation.
Okay, let's dwell more on this act. I think there is something you need to clarify more. Section 38 of this act says that INEC must conduct the election with the provisions of the act. Now in Section 60, paragraph 2, talks about that INEC may discretionarily use technology if they want. But they have promised that they were going to use technology.
I'm not too sure about the word may that you have quoted. I have not read that section. But what I know is that the Electoral Act had set out the processes to follow in the conduct of election. And then, and I do know that in certain provisions of that act, because I'm not holding my hair.
Okay, let me read out to you something. Section 60, subsection 5 says, the presiding officer shall transfer the results, including the total number of accredited voters and the results of the ballot in a manner as prescribed by the commission.
Not may, shall do it in a manner prescribed by the Independent National Electoral Commission.
So the commission now, did infract the law?
Just wait. INEC is not a creation of the Electoral Act. It's a creation of the Constitution. Yeah. Section 153 of the Nigerian Constitution, read together with Section 160 of the same Constitution, clearly established INEC and gives INEC power to make rules and regulations. These provisions of the Electoral Act, you have also said, say the transmission of result shall be in accordance with the guidelines as issued by INEC. Pursuant to the constitutional provisions and the Electoral Act, INEC issue what it calls Election Manual 2022. Go to look at paragraph 38 of that INEC manual. It prescribed step by step to be taken in the polling unit and how results of election as declared at the polling unit are to be transmitted and collated and sent to a collation center. First, you don't take the result from that place without first of all having it scanned into the Beaver machine, in which case you then send it to INEC viewing portal, that you and I and every other Nigerians of reasonable technological understanding and knowledge will go there and see that in polling unit AIT1, 200 voters voted for Marvelous of AIT party, while 100 Nigerians of Okutepa party voted for Mr. Okutepa. And that result will be with your agent and my agents, and then Nigerians who were there who listened to these declarations will then go to INEC portal to see that what was declared by the presiding officer corresponds with what is posted in the INEC server with what the agents are carrying. But the experience we have seen are that what is uploaded of scanned and put there are either mutilated, cancelled, or results of other states of the federation finds their way to another state. Mark you that Nigerian is a federation with distinct states and distinct polling unit codes. The polling unit codes are not of the same numbers. Neither do you have the same polling unit in Lagos as you have in Zamfara, or you have in Sokoto, or you have in Imo, or you have in Jigawa State. So where a result of a polling unit in Lafia, therefore, for instance, finds its way to be uploaded in INEC portal in an election in Zamfara, then he put a question mark. Number two, let me say that election starts with accreditation, and the results at the polling units are the foundations upon which every other election's results are built. In other words, the Supreme Court said that polling unit results are the pyramids upon which every other election are going to be based. Therefore, when you parade results of overall results as winners of election, you must demonstrate that indeed those are true reflection. Those results are true reflections of the results from the polling units. So, when the lawmaker therefore insisted that INEC should have a guideline, and the INEC taking that opportunity of the provisions of the law and the Constitution to dish out its 2022 electoral guideline, and included therefore paragraph 38 of that guideline that sets out the Bible of how this thing are to be done, and INEC then, in total disobedience to what it issues itself, under no compulsion, under no superintendencies of anybody, and began to breach it in the middle of the march, then can you in clear conscience and as a person given to understanding the philosophical basis of foundation say that the election that was result that was declared on the basis of a faulty foundation is a result of election? So that is why Nigerians are saying, INEC, what is the problem with you? They said it was technical glitch that happened, or technical hitches that happened, and that their technicians are working on it. And as I speak with you, I am not too sure the technicians are working on it. But before you take me on to another place, let me say this. Even in this electoral act that you have, I think about section 65 or thereabout, it gives INEC opportunity to review declaration made where there are complaints, and unless we pretend to be deaf and dumb, there are complaints. And I saw when the presidential election petitions was being collated in International Conference Center that many agents of the political parties were complaining about non-uploading or non-scanning of results, and the inability to see the results of the election at the polling unit being viewed alongside with the result that was being brought for announcement. Because the intendment before then was that when at the collation center you are announcing marvelous polling unit AIT, then the technological device of INEC should then be displayed on a large screen to show that that result is a reflection of what was uploaded from the pyramid of the election.
Well, let me ask you something. If all these things you've really reeled out were what is supposed to be, and INEC went ahead to announce these results on these illegalities, could it be that they were under pressure?
They are the only one to answer. Who put them under pressure? And is there any society that people will not be under pressure? That is why I have always advocated that to be trusted with public responsibility, those officers must have strength of character. It's not the first time that people are under pressure anywhere. There is no one that is not under pressure. Are you not even in environmental pressure in Nigeria? But you must resist it. Even in the ecclesiastical world, people are under pressure to do wrong thing. But it is your strength of character that will make the difference. So, if you permit me the use of this ecclesiastical word, was Joseph a house help in the Bible, not under pressure from Potiphar's wife? But he ran away, and he ended up even in prison from where he came to become prime minister in a foreign land. Not to talk about a corrupt, infested society like Nigeria. Are you as a journalist not under pressure sometimes?
Talking about strength of character. The judiciary has been accused of, lacking that strength of character in most of their cases they have, passed. In 2019, President Muhammadu Buhari, of course, was in the court because of the irregularities that happened in that
2019?
election. Yes, 2019 election with Atiku Abubakar.
Yes.
And of course, you saw what played out in Imo State during making Ihediola and Hope Uzodinma. And Hope Uzodinma was brought back after 6 months that Ihediola was in the helm of affairs as the governor of Imo State. Now the question is, are we going to have enormous trust that the judiciary will do what it's supposed to do?
Your duty as journalist is also to investigate. Your duty also is not limited to when there are sensational decisions, you come to disturb us. Have we carried out sufficient investigations to find out about the process of recruitment to our bench. You have read a lot of things being said. I must admit that there are some judicial officers that are bold, that have the courage, but what is their percentage? And where do you find them? And who is using them? How are they being used? So, who determines a judicial officer to go on a national assignment? So, you will think that the judiciary are angels in Nigerian environment. No, I'm not thinking that they are. But again, it's a difficult question for me to answer publicly like this, because there is a general perception which their lordships and all of us in the legal profession must admit, of a low level of courage on the part of our judiciary. The people talk about the judiciary not being independent, and there are numerous factors responsible for this lack of independence. The judiciary, for instance, can back but cannot bite in the strict sense of the word, because if he gives order, the responsibility of execution is on the executive. And when the executive decide to treat the orders of the court with levity, their lordships are also human. They will begin to think that even if we give the order, we will obey. So we are operating in a climb where iniquity is paid better than integrity. We're operating in a climb where truth has taken flight out of our subconsciousness. We're operating in a climb where praise singing and sycophantic singing praises of evildoers get more paid than those who speak the truth. That is why sometimes it's difficult for you to see appointment in some places being a product of what you know. Because when appointment is based on who you know and the connection, then when those you know have challenges of fraud and impropriety, as it appears to be now, tendency is that you go back to Marvelous and say, Marvelous, I made you the chief registrar of this court.
Well, time is no longer on.
So I'm saying in essence that the judiciary also is operating in a very challenging environment. But I charge them, I charge the judiciary to be above board, like Caesar's wife. I charge them not to rubber stamp the electoral malpractices in this election. I charge them not to give license to political thuggery and political hooliganism in the name of presuming INEC elections and results of elections given by INEC as being regular, because even the blind can see that there is lack of transparency on the part of this electoral body in this election, in all of these elections. And there are also lack of transparency on the part of political actors who have taken to political brigadries and political hooliganism in preventing opponents from campaigning, preventing opponents from having a few days to go and sell their mandates to the people. So what we are operating in Nigeria is a terrorist democracy, where those who have the terrorist conduct terrorize people into following. In fact, the will of the people does not matter in our climb. And I think that time has come for our judiciary for once to be courageous, and follow their oath of office without fear or favor, affection or ill will. because that is the constitutional duty the judiciary has been saddled with in Section 6 of our Constitution.
Well, thank you so much. I really want to say thank you for coming to the program.
Thank you, Marvelous.
Thank you.